Hello, everybody. Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. A very interesting story today in the news. It come up on my Facebook feed, and it's from the Texas Tribune. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton's top aides want him investigated for suspected bribery and public corruption, and so we'll click on that. Governor Greg Abbott says accusations against Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton raised serious concerns. 7 senior officials said in a letter obtained by the Austin American-Statesman and KVUE that they have reason to believe Paxton should be investigated for abuse of office, bribery, and other potential criminal offenses. Okay, now, well, this is the Texas Attorney General is the highest law position in the state of Texas, and so. I'll read just a little bit more. Senior officials in the Texas Attorney General's office have asked federal law enforcement to investigate allegations of improper influence, abuse of office, bribery, and other potential crimes by their boss, the Austin American-Statesman and KVUE TV first reported on Sunday. The senior staff members, including Jeff Mateer, who resigned from his post as Paxton's top aide this week after several years leading the agency, notified the agency's HR director that they sought the investigation. I also sent a message to that Mr. Mateer there, that aide, because I wonder if a part of these bribery and cover-up and corruptions are having to do with the crimes here in Midland, and even bigger in Midland, where we've identified that homeowners all over Texas are reporting people in the attic. Same thing I reported when I was ambushed and shot inside my home, and so it's widespread racketeering, corruption. Who knows how many murders, etc. And so, anyways, there was here. Let me look here. There was another news story from a different source, the Golden Hammer here, and it said that Texas AG Paxton, likely to resign this week, faces bribery, abuse of power, etc. Okay, and so that was a newer article saying that it's looking like that Paxton's going to resign. And then I shared it and I commented and I said I just sent an email to the Texas Tribune with my story of the 20 times that I contacted the Attorney General about the gang who has been rigging private homes across Texas and then using that for burglary, theft, and murder. And so I suspect that I've long suspected that maybe there was bribery going on at that level, at this very high level of this cover up for this racketeering and the organized crime and the murder and just the hospital, the secret police, all the crimes. It's just incredible. So anyway, here on my email, I'm going to show you here, and Texas Attorney General suspected of bribery was referenced. I just forwarded that on to Sheriff Kreiner because I've been sending evidence to Kreiner, hoping that he would make some arrests. It's the sheriff's department that's over that Crime Stoppers where that young girl was found in 2013, and my friend told me about a young girl being murdered at an also party in 2010. That's why I've been and Kreiner did come off as saying he was a Christian and that he was a man of integrity. At least that's what he said, when he was elected. I've only got one reply back to about 50 emails, fact-filled emails, enough to bring down this crime ring, solve multiple murders, as far as I'm concerned. Blind carbon copy, the Texas Rangers on it, and then my private investigator, KMID, that's a news station here, and Senator John Cornyn. And so I forwarded it on this message right here. And this was the one I'll read to you that I just sent, I forwarded on, and it was in reference to the news stories, and I sent this to, here, I'm going to show you here there we go, right there, to KVUE. That was the news sources, the the Statesman. That's another news source in the Texas Tribune this morning, because that's where the news story's from. And I said this is in reference to the news article posted by Miss Platoff. She was the reporter for the Texas Tribune, saying 7 senior officials said in a letter obtained by the Austin American-Statesman and KVUE that they have reason to believe Paxton should be investigated for abuse of office, bribery, and other potential criminal offenses. I suspected that bribery may have what has gone on with the incredible newsworthy crimes first identified Midland. I didn't word that very well. I should have reread it, but As seen in the attachment, I sent 20 fact-filled emails to Attorney Generals starting in 2016, which were ignored. To give you an idea how big the story is, in January 2012, I reported a suspected tunnel to the DEA, who didn't look, and 2 weeks later I was ambushed and shot by somebody under my home with burglar alarms gone in my attic. The young previous owner of my home, Mike Lawhon, is suspected of being murdered here before I transferred into town as the next unsuspecting buyer. At that time, all I had was this crazy story, but that isn't the case anymore, as I've now found evidence, undeniable proof showing that I wasn't shot with my gun. I've identified homeowners all over Midland, Odessa, Texas, and many other states reporting people in the attic, and I've documented multiple people saying that tunnels and or million-dollar underground homes are here. And that includes recent candidate for sheriff, Joe Lozano. He told me that these underground crime facilities was the hideout for the late Sheriff Gary Painter while I was secretly recording him. That's a YouTube video, and it actually went viral. I believe these crimes are connected with a sex trafficking ring, and this represents tens of thousands of burglaries, thefts, and who knows how many murders. In addition, it's believed these underground homes were hosting the infamous and wild parties that were held by wealthy oil men back in 2010. And my friend Angie Mangia Hurley told me about a young girl that was murdered at one of them when she refused to prostitute. The remains of a young girl were found outside of Midland in 2013. I've wondered if some of those oil companies' owners haven't slipped some money to the AG and others to keep these capital crimes secret. This should have been a national headline news story a long time ago, but it seems somebody has stopped Free Press in America to murder one homeowner after another. The video links will explain this in better detail. Now remember, this is going to the press, and because they're the ones that reported the story, my address, phone number, YouTube, Facebook. I wanted people in the attic. That's just a huge story. A lot of them are police scanner calls of other homeowners reporting people in the attic. And that's so important to my case where I was ambushed and shot, after reporting people in the attic and with burglar alarms going off in my attic, So that tells you that these crimes are going on at many other homes. This is widespread racketeering, and organized crime. Then the suspected murderer of Mike Lawhon, that's the previous homeowner of my home, and he died the week before the 2008 oil show started. There's a lot of evidence found suggests that he was murdered here and taken to Fort Worth. 2010 oil show party murder, that's the murder of the young girl, and I believe it's in 2013 they found the remains of a young girl, and it tells that story in there. In several leads, they could be followed up. I think that murder could be solved. And it most likely happened in the underground home that's in my backyard. One of the 4 3-bedroom $1 million underground homes. During the commission of a felony, that's an important video because it shows the evidence showing that a burglar was trapped in my home on the day of the murder attempt on my life. But even more importantly than that, it shows that 5 police officers, Davis, Dickey, Chatwell, Angel, and Hale, were at or in my home, and they were not seen arriving on the security cameras that saw Woodward and Naylor arrive 4 minutes before. And so it's suspected that police were under my home, and it was somebody under my home that tried to murder me in my home during a burglary. And the irony of that is I had been calling the police and reporting burglaries, and I won't be surprised to find out if it wasn't Midland Police Detective Dickey that let the burglar out. It might have been the police that tried to murder me in my home, and because of a burglar being trapped after me reporting multiple burglaries. And they're trying to cover up this widespread racketeering. That's what I was showing you. How to get away with murder, okay? And this one shows the proof showing I wasn't shot with my gun. And so, that is so important in itself, proof of a tunnel doesn't mean proof of a murder attempt, but proof that I wasn't shot with my gun does. And then more than that, it looks like they used a special ammunition to shoot me with, and that was to cover up my murder. You're going to find that video is real interesting. Dr. Glass's wife, another super important, interesting video, because that documents, proves, and shows the medical crimes. They literally faked my x-rays at the hospital, and then they tried to cut my leg off. I believe we'll find out I was intentionally maimed, mutilated, and dismembered to cover up this failed murder. They were trying to call this failed murder an accident. Interestingly, the ex-wife had told me that the secret is a group of doctors are killing people for profit. And what she didn't tell me was her brother-in-law is a doctor. Come to find out, he was my doctor on the night that I'm shot when them x-rays were faked. Haley Dunn timeline. That's a famous, nationally famous missing, murdered 13-year-old child from Colorado City, Texas cheerleader. It's kind of like John Benet Ramsey, Haley Dunn is, and it was only 80 miles from here, and she has a connection to this house because in March 14th, 2013, I emailed the Department of Justice and I suggest they looked in these underground homes for facilities here for clues into her disappearance, and 2 days later her remains are found in Scurry County. Now there's a dozen people documented saying Haley was killed and buried over in Odessa. So it's widely believed, many people believe, that she was dug up and moved because of my email or suggestion to law enforcement that we have a police corruption problem again. Sheriff Painter's hideout, that was the secretly recorded phone call with Joe Lozano, who was running for Midland Sheriff earlier this year, and is one that told me Painter used to hide out in these underground facilities. That's where it's believed them oil show parties were going on and where that young girl was murdered at, and maybe Painter was there when that happened. Why hasn't anybody been caught on camera? And I'm asked many times over, why don't you install camera? Well, I did, and finally I proved that they were hacking my cameras, but by that time I was already crippled for life, my career ruined, my reputation ruined, and the only thing I did was buy a home, home where the guy that before me that died. And why don't you dig? And that's another thing. Why don't you take the law in your own hands and go arrest them dozen secret police that were involved in the murder attempt? Because I'm a disabled and defenseless crime victim. We need law enforcement to come out here, and I don't think anybody has to dig. I don't think I have to dig or law enforcement, because I think all they have to do is ask the many witnesses that are documented saying underground homes are here, And so I had just a couple more pictures before I close this video out. This one right here I wanted to show you is an email from December 15, 2014, and it was sent to the Governor, Attorney General of Texas Rangers. In 2014, that was sent to Rick Perry, who was governor, and the Attorney General back then was Greg Abbott, who is our current governor. And what this is the rape and murder story. And that rape and murder story is the story of the young girl that was murdered at the 2010 oil show party. I just posted it on my Facebook a couple days earlier. And so this day, I sent this over here talking about, this girl being murdered at this party, which had police present. And then later on the same day, secret police Chad Simpson murders his wife and kills himself, And so I want to show you Greg Abbott there. So Greg Abbott has been copied, on emails for a long time, even before he was governor. This is some more emails between Greg Abbott, and he was Attorney General before Paxton was, and look at the date on this one, January 2013. And of course, I was shot in January 2012. This was a year after Sanders was shot. And, a whole bunch of information's, known now that wasn't then back in 2013. But I'm telling him I'm shot inside my home. I got these pictures of these police we can't get identified, or at least they look like police. I thought they were police, and sure enough they were, And so you can see that I'm sending these emails, and then I get a reply back from the Office of the Attorney General of Texas in February 1st, 2013. So I'm positive that Greg Abbott, our governor of Texas, knows about what's going on here in Midland, Texas. I'm sure he knows who I am and knows who the secret police are. He knows about the oil show parties. I just want to show you that them the emails that Greg Abbott, for a long time, our previous Attorney General, I was contacting before I started contacting Paxton. And here is the names of the secret police. Back then, they wasn't identified. They were still secret. They didn't get identified until 2018, and I was shot in 2016. And what happened was a private investigator, Empire Private Investigations, identifies all 11 of them that were accidentally caught on camera. And so that's a list on the left. Here are them 5 names there and these down here. And, it was just incredible. The first one that showed up was John Woodward, a Martin County Sheriff, and this is Midland County. Nobody's ever explained why a sheriff from a whole different county is at my house minutes after a capital murder attempt. That's never, and he was followed by Mike Naylor, the sheriff deputy, Mike Naylor, who died in the line of duty here in 2014, and 2 months later, as you see, Chad Simpson, he died and murdered his wife, killed himself allegedly 2 months after Naylor. So 2 of the secret police are dead, and then we find out in 2019, there was a police report all along that had been illegally withheld. And what we compare the police report to the names identified from the people caught on camera, and 6 of these names are not on the police report. They were omitted, and that's not an accident. That's called a felony, is what that is. That's not an accident. And so here was these names, and we're going looking. These are the ones on the police report right here. Most important, I explained a while ago that this police report time-stamped 5 police officers being at or in my home, and they wasn't seen arriving on the cameras that saw Woodward and Naylor arrive 4 minutes earlier. Dickey was inside my home, and he wasn't seen arriving 4 minutes after Woodward Naylor was seen on my cameras, And so what that means is they come from under my house, from the now removed trapdoor that the ex-wife had already told me about, and from where I had been shot. It looks like it might have been police that tried to murder me in my home. It may be because of that trap burglar, and I had been reporting burglaries to the police. And then this last list here is the second entry 3 days later. And I believe this one was after they had poured concrete and already covered up the trapdoor the ex-wife had told me about. And you notice this, the only person in common of the whole thing is Rosie Rodriguez, right? And because they hid this police report for 6 years, okay, 7 years, actually 7 years, and they tried to disable the camera. They never planned on anybody finding out that they'd been in my house here and staging the crime scene here, because one of these pictures shows Rosie Rodriguez planting and April Chandler planting my stolen cell phone. They stole my spare shotgun shells. They stole my voice recorder that I told them about was proof of this capital murder tape. That's what happened on the first night. And then here was the police report that took 6 years to get, and this was the second entry. It was going to be the only known entry. And so there's plenty of evidence right here, you want to know where the underground facility, you don't have to dig. All you have to do is get Lieutenant Dickey in a room and say, hey, you didn't come in the front door, you were in Buddy's house. That means you were under his house. We need a statement from you. And then all them other secret police, they obviously know, and that's probably who was at the 2010 oil show party when the young girl was murdered, or at least a lot of them, and because my friend was afraid to report the murder and Angie, and said that police were there. Anyways, big news today if the Attorney General is accused of being bribed. And talk to you later.